This is how people end up stuck with bad land. They find a property that looks great, good acreage, a quiet location, beautiful views out over the hills, and a price that sits far below everything around it. But here's the trap. They get so fixed on what is in front of them that they never see the problem sitting right beneath their feet. What follows are the 7 flaws that turn a great-looking parcel into a trap, walked through real listings and the exact clue that gives each one away. Learn to read these, and the next time a deal looks too good, you will know precisely where to look before you ever make an offer. And save the most expensive flaw for last, because it is the one that can lock up your money for years. Picture this. You find a 43-acre parcel in a rural county, the kind that almost never comes up. It has a private dirt road easement recorded on file, so legal access is not even a question. The soil is a well-drained series, the type that lets a septic system go almost anywhere on the land. No wetlands, no flood zone, no homeowners association, and zoning loose enough to allow a manufactured home. And the number is a dream. $50,000, on land the comparable sales say is worth $95,000, maybe over $100,000. A 40-acre lot just across the county line sold at $80,000, so you sign the agreement. What could possibly go wrong? Then someone drives out to photograph it before you ever see it in person, and sends back one blunt message. The whole place has become the local dumping ground. Tires stacked higher than a person. Old clothing hanging from the tree limbs. Bags of waste layered into the mold and brush. A staircase in the middle of the woods that leads to nowhere. The junk removal quote comes back at $25,000, and then the line that ends it. That number only covers the trash sitting in plain view. Once a crew starts scraping, there is no telling what is buried underneath. And if any of it is a chemical spill or a rusted oil drum, that discovery forces a report to the environmental authorities and a cleanup bill with no ceiling on it. And the junk quietly tells you who your neighbors are. The people who have used that land as a free dump for years and who will not stop the day you arrive. The instinct is to treat it all as a simple money problem. Get a quote, clear the mess, move on. But that is the trap, because the visible pile is never the whole pile, and buried waste is where the real danger hides. So the first flaw is junk, because what you can see is never what you actually pay to remove. Now picture a small lot right inside a town, 1/10 of an acre, flat, good shape, city water, sewer, and electric right at the line, a high visibility corner, the kind of spot a small storefront would fight over. And yet it has sat 471 days on the market. 73 views in a month, 3 saves. The price has been cut 3 separate times, from $26,900 down to $23,900. So ask yourself the question the crowd keeps ignoring. If this lot is so clean, why will it not sell? Pull up the satellite view and the southeastern corner tells the whole story. The neighbor's detached garage is sitting across the boundary, on the lot. The listing even discloses it. And a garage like that carries a rebuild cost of $15,000 to $20,000, which means the neighbor is not moving it quietly. So you get 2 exits, and both are bad. Force the removal through the courts at your own expense, a fight they will drag out for as long as the law allows. Or sign an encroachment agreement that blesses their right to sit on your ground forever. On a lot that small, the strip you give up is a big share of what you paid for. A basic survey ordered before closing would have caught that garage in a single afternoon. So the second flaw is a boundary problem, because a structure sitting where it does not belong will shadow the value, the financing, and the resale of that land for as long as you own it. Here is a 1-acre lot in the country. No public sewer on the road, so a future home has to carry its own septic. It looks perfect. Flat, dry, no flood zone. But pull the county records and there it is. A denied septic permit, already on file. They came out, they tested it, and they turned it down for a high water table and soil too wet to drain. Watch what that one line does to the number. A lot worth $45,000 as a buildable home site is worth maybe $10,000 if no septic will ever go in, because the only buyer left is the neighbor who wants a little more side yard. You can hire a private soil scientist to check the corners the county may have missed, but when the answer holds, the deal is over. So the third flaw is unsuitable soil, because the gap between a buildable lot and a nearly worthless one can come down to a few inches of drainage you will never see standing on top of it. And soil does more than carry a septic field. If that parcel needs a private well, the same ground has to give up clean, steady water. And a dry or contaminated well can strand a home site just as fast as a failed septic can. Test for both before you ever count the land as buildable. Order the perc test before you buy, never after you own it. Now, a 1/4-acre lot in a warm coastal state. Cheap, near shopping and beaches, paved frontage, utilities at the line, no flood zone, good zoning. 2 lots on the very same road just sold at $18,000 and $21,000. This one is listed under $15,000, and it is sat close to a year. 14 views, 0 saves. So what is wrong with it? The answer is hidden in a map layer. The lot falls inside the protected range of a threatened bird species, guarded by both state and federal law. To build, you have to prove whether the birds are on the property, pay for a habitat and mitigation plan, and wait out a permitting timeline that can stretch on for months. And that is before anyone checks for a protected tortoise or anything else the state watches down there. And a protected species is only the rare version of this flaw. The common cousins are wetlands and a mapped flood zone, and either one can wall off large parts of a lot from any building at all, shrink the usable ground to almost nothing, and pile on drainage and insurance costs that never show up on the listing. Most sellers just hand all of it to you and say, go figure it out. So the fourth flaw is an environmental restriction, because a single line on a map can turn a simple build into a slow and costly fight with an agency that holds every card. Call the Environmental Health Office and ask exactly what lives on that land before you sign a thing. Now picture a 5-acre parcel priced at a fraction of its neighbors. Well-drained soil, a clean, flat build site framed by trees on 3 sides, no real flood or wetland concern. It looks like the best deal you have seen all year. But look at the map again. The parcel is boxed in on every side by other people's property, with no public road touching it anywhere. The nearest road sits about 800 feet away, with undeveloped ground in between. Clearing a driveway through that might run $16,000, but that is the smaller half of the problem. Pull the deed history and the recorded plats, and there is no easement on file that gives this parcel a legal way in. That is landlocked. And here is the part that catches people. Building a road does not give you the legal right to drive on it. To force one, you file for a prescriptive easement, which means dragging several neighbors into court, spending tens of thousands of dollars, and waiting a year or more while they refuse to sign. Landlocked land can lose 60 to 80% of its value the moment a title search exposes it. And access hides in more shapes than a missing road. A long, narrow strip called a flag lot may technically touch a road and still cost a fortune to build a driveway down. An easement can exist on paper and still cross ground that floods half the year. So the fifth flaw is access, in both forms, the physical and the legal, because nothing kills the worth of a parcel faster than learning there is no lawful way onto it. Here is a 1-acre lot with almost everything right. Good manufactured home zoning, even terrain, no serious wetland, and a price of $7,900 on land selling in the mid-20s nearby. A 1-acre lot down the way just sold at $30,000. On paper, you cannot lose. But drive the surrounding road and the whole picture changes in about a minute. Collapsing structures, yards buried in junk, rusted vehicles that have not moved in years, sheds sagging over piles of debris. The land itself is fine, the neighborhood is not. And that weighs more than most buyers want to admit, because nobody pulls a construction loan to build a forever home ringed by neglect. And nobody buys that home from you later either. It is worth driving that road at more than 1 hour of the day, because a place at 9 in the morning is not always the place it becomes after dark. An appraiser sees exactly what a future buyer sees, which means every neglected lot around you drags down the value of whatever you build. So the sixth flaw is a bad neighborhood, because a good parcel cannot outrun a bad location. And here is the last one, the flaw that is hardest of all to unwind. A 2.7-acre wooded parcel near new development, access already verified, offered at $14,000 on land that could sell all day at $55,000. And that price, that beautiful price, is the warning itself. The first clue is in the tax record. Back taxes running past $5,000. So far behind, the county is closing in on a foreclosure. So ask the obvious question. Why would anyone let a $50,000 asset slide toward foreclosure over a few $100s a year? The answer is written into the deed. The owner is not listed as a person. It is listed as the heirs of a man who died back in the early 1970s. No will, no probate, no estate ever settled. Ownership just passed to his children, then to their children, married, divorced, scattered across the country, out of contact with one another. And every generation that goes by without a settled estate multiplies the number of people who have to sign, until a single acre can carry a dozen or more part owners spread across a dozen states, some of whom do not even know they hold a claim to it. And a seller can only sell you the slice that is genuinely theirs. If the person offering you this land is one of 22 unknown heirs, That is not a parcel. That is a lawsuit with your name on it. So the seventh flaw is a clouded title, because clearing one can take a quiet title action that costs more in time and legal fees than the land is worth. Sometimes a simple case can be patched with an affidavit of heirship, but inheritance layered across 3 generations is rarely worth the trouble. And the smart move is to set it down and walk. So look at the pattern running through all 7. Junk, encroachment, failed soil, protected habitat, no access, a ruined neighborhood, and a broken chain of ownership. Every one of them was hidden from the listing. Every one of them was catchable before closing. And every one of them turned up on a parcel that looked, at the first glance, like a rare bargain. That is the real lesson. The land that traps people is almost never the land that looks bad. It is the land that looks flawless and quietly hides one of these 7 flaws underneath. And the tell is almost always the same: a price that is too good, or a clean-looking lot that has sat unsold far too long. So before you make an offer on any parcel, run it through the same short checklist. Pull the deed and a title search, and confirm both a clean chain of ownership and a recorded easement for legal access. Order a soil evaluation and a perc test before you count on ever building. Pull the flood, wetland, and habitat maps for the exact parcel, not the general area. Check the tax record for years of delinquency, because a large unpaid balance is often the loose thread that unravels a hidden title problem. Read the listing for any disclosed encroachment, and study the satellite view for a structure or a fence sitting across a line. None of it costs much, and all of it is spent before you are committed, which is the one moment a flaw is still free to walk away from. And here is the mindset that protects you more than any single check on that list. Treat a price that seems too good as a question, never as a gift. Ask why this parcel, priced to move, has not already been snapped up by someone closer to it, someone who knows the county, someone who drives that road every day. Land does not sit cheap for no reason in a market where buyers are hunting. When the answer to that question is simple and honest, you have found a genuine deal. When the seller cannot answer it, or talks around it, the flaw is already there, and you are simply the person who has not found it yet. The people who lose money on land are almost never the ones who paid too much. They are the ones who never asked what they were not being told. The next thing worth knowing is the set of pitfalls that strike after the purchase, the ones that most land buyers never see coming until they are already in too deep to get out. That is where the real education begins, and it is worth understanding before you ever sign.